Good morning. Welcome again. I am Deacon Judah. We're coming to you live from the land of Judea in Holy Israel. And today we are continuing our conversation and we're continuing our journey throughout Israel. And I just want to start by saying that a servant of the Lord, a blessed servant of the Lord, a wise servant of the Lord, once said to us that there are 4 things that actually cause conflict in marriage. But understand that the discussion today is not about marriage. But I just want to quote something out of that extract. And she says to us, there are 4 things that cause conflict in marriage. And those are children, that's money, sex, and religion. But the conversation we're going to have today is about one of those factors, and that is religion. Religion has been known to start wars. Religion has been known to cause conflicts that have created differences that are almost irreconcilable. But today I've got a panel of guests who are going to take us through this conversation. We're going to discuss tolerance, respect, and understanding in terms of our diverseness as a people and our different religious beliefs. On our panel today we have Apostle Nick Magola, who is joining us today, and we'll just give him a moment to do an introduction. And we have Dr. Molapo, who will also do an introduction, and we have Keith Harrington, who will also do an introduction, and Jonathan Feldstein, who is our guide today here in Israel, who's taking us through this beautiful land of Judea and telling us all that is good and all that is troublesome about this land. Good morning, gentlemen. Apostle, I will start with you. Just a quick introduction here.
Okay, I'm Dr. Nick Magola, and I have, by God's grace, I've studied about this land, what we call Middle Eastern Studies, for about 43 years. And I hold a degree, a PhD on that. I've been to this land since 1995, for more than 30 years. So my studies is not just by reading, but by coming here. I can't remember how many times I've been to this land.
Thank you, Apostle. Jonathan?
So I'm Jonathan Feldstein. I live here in Israel. I have the privilege of serving as president of the Genesis 123 Foundation, which builds bridges between Jews and Christians in Israel in ways that are new, unique, and meaningful. And I also study the land. By living here, I say that I live in my own petri dish.
That's a good one, a petri dish.
Okay. My name is David Molapo, the founder and the president of I Can Foundation International. This is my 7th trip, and as Major Daughter said, this trip is different, and I'm looking forward to adding value to the conversations today.
Thank you. Bob?
Thank you so much. My name is Keith Harrington. I am a professor in theology. My wife and I have a registered marriage and divorce clinic, Dr. Keith Harrington Marriage and Divorce Clinic, that we run in South Africa. And there are so many other things that we do that we won't have time to say.
And I am Deacon Judah. I'll just introduce myself as your moderator for the day. So, gentlemen, we're going to talk about a very thorny subject today. We're in the Middle East, to be precise. We're in Israel. And we know that there is a lot going on in Israel. We come from outside the country. We get news reports that there's been a Palestinian attack in Israel. There's been an Israeli attack in Palestine. And the differences just seem to be irreconcilable. But in our journey here today, and as Jonathan has so aptly explained to us, that these people coexist. As we were making our way from Jerusalem into Judea, we actually saw vehicles that are driven by Arabs going up and down through Jerusalem and so on. And right when we leave this park, I know that we are going to a mosque and we are also going to a synagogue. But I'd like to know, what is the actual bone of contention? What is the fight about? Is the fight economic or is the fight religious? Apostle, may I just start with you?
Okay. Basically, I would say that the reason for fighting is because of the land. And once we understand that issue, we will be able to answer some of the questions. The Bible says there are so many places it says God owns the land of Israel, the land of God. Now, if God decides to give this land to a certain group, I think we have to bow to God's sovereignty, because God decides who should stay here or there. And I'll just give you one scripture, which is Acts chapter 7, verse 26. From one man he made every nation of men that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he determined the times set for them and the exact places where they should live. I will continue, but for now let me stop there. Once we understand this, that this land was given to the Jewish people, we will settle so many issues.
Apostle, I want to ask a question, particularly based on your submission, and I'll immediately hand over to Jonathan to try and maybe take us further in this conversation. You speak of something extremely important to a man who is a Christian and a believer in God. God's sovereignty and his right to decide to give who he wants to give, what he wants to give, as he has given the Israelites this land as his own choosing. Now, Jonathan, what do you say to a man who is not a believer in God, who is not an Israelite, who is contesting the will of God in this regard?
It's an excellent question. There's legal case, San Remo Accords from 1920 outline here what the Balfour Declaration under Great Britain established in 1917, that there are legal rights, and these are the current prevailing laws vis-a-vis the land. We can go back. I ascribe to everything you said about God, right? This is the land God gave Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and their descendants through me. I'm one of them. But to somebody who doesn't believe and doesn't understand and questions that, and those are legitimate. First of all, I would pray that they would get closer to God. And second of all, I say that study the history. Study the history that the legal precedent we establish now is San Remo of 1920. Study the fact, and this is not in a disparaging way at all, that there was never a state of Palestine. And until 1964, the year I was born, Palestinians, the term Palestinian didn't exist. And before that, it only existed in the context of Jews living in the land before the establishment of the state. My father was one of them. He was a Palestinian Jew living here in the land. And that's not to say that there are not indigenous Palestinian Arabs who have lived here for generations. There are. We are not here to displace them. We are here to live peacefully and coexist with them, and I hope thrive together. But we can do so if the land issue if the acceptance of the legitimacy of Israel is put before us, and we can do so if they will put down, the phrase is, if they put down their weapons, they can have peace tomorrow. If we put down our weapons, they will have Israel tomorrow.
Doc, your take?
Well, let's be clear, because even the Muslims believe this is their motherland, because Abraham had two chicks and they Ishmael and Isaac. Yeah. So I believe the issue, like our friends have spoken about, the land issue is not going to be resolved, period. Maybe that is why Jesus says this gospel must be preached. You start here in Jerusalem, but notice he said then you go to Judea, Samaria, and here's the key, the uttermost part of the earth. Because at the end of the day, Ukraine, Russia, Middle East will never ever solve this problem. Even this thing of Israel, remember, the colonizers are the one that named the place. There was nothing called Middle East, you know what I mean? So all I'm saying is these are political rhetoric, and from my experience, some of those issues must not deflect on what can we as individuals do, as organizations do. Because kingdoms come, kingdoms go. I spoke to, I call him Professor Jonathan, I said, even the American presidents, you can continue to kick this thing, they can. People are just not wanting to deal with this Palestinian and the Middle East issue. And I believe that in our lifetime, it will never be resolved. My question is, it's our time. What are we doing for the next generation so that we can learn to coexist? At the end of the day, we need shalom, we need peace, because that's what will prevail in this land, peace. But this land and that land, Chief, I'm from South Africa. We're still struggling. After close to 30 years of apartheid, we still don't own the land as Daki. So I don't think we'll solve the situation here in our lifetime.
Prof, over to you.
Thank you so much. I think Dr. David Molapo has really just elaborated on something that I was thinking of as the other panelists were speaking. The issue in Israel between the Palestinians and the Jewish people is really a contention between brothers, because you would also know biologically that you carry the blood of your father. So now Ishmael and Isaac are both from Abraham. So this is actually a contention between brothers, and we have such things in our families. And we saw in the first family, Adam and Eve, they had, Cain and Abel, and this is what it's all about. And the truth of the matter is, there will be no peace until the Prince of Peace himself brings peace in this land. In the meantime, the Antichrist, those that are, eschatologically inclined, will understand that he will come and for a short period of time will bring peace. And we are encouraged to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, but we also know that the real peace is only going to come through Jesus Christ, the Messiah.
Wow, Prof. A beautiful take and the last take. But there's something that I want us to just take into cognizance at this very point. Based on your last submission, we know for a fact that the Prince of Peace is the only one that can bring peace in this situation, in this current setup of things. But we are living day-to-day lives. We are seeing casualties. We are seeing war on a daily basis. Lives of people are affected. People are dying. And let me tell you, it does not only affect the people that are in the war itself. I mean, if you look at it and actually contextualize it, you'll realize that it is spilling over. Today we have Ukraine, we have Russia. We don't know what's going to follow. And the next will follow, the next will follow. And what does it do? We come from a place that is called a third world country, Jonathan. And in third world countries, when you in the West sneeze, we catch the flu. And we are feeling the effects like never before. So what are we saying about the current situation, and how are we dealing with it now so that we can at least mitigate the current effects? What are we doing?
What I believe is that the issue of the Middle East is spiritual, it's not political. So if we can handle it in that way, that it's only God who has a solution in this place, that will help us. The other example I like to use is that you own a house here, and you leave this place, you go to America or South Africa, that house is yours. Whether you are in the house or not, that house is yours. Now someone comes and says, okay, because you are in America, I occupy your house because you are not here. You come back, you fight that person, you take the house, you are not wrong. Because the history of if you study the Bible, when Jews misbehave, God will send them to exile. Okay? So they went to exile for many years, the Babylonian and the Syrian exile. Now, people who were in the land, they found the land and the owner is not here, but the title did belong to the Jewish people. Okay? So they came, they fought. In 1948, they owned about 600,000 Jews in the land. They fought and took the land. Now that's why some people are saying it's our land. But Jerusalem, Israel, if you read the Bible, God said, I will give you the whole land of Canaan. And by the way, in closing, they are owning the original land which God promised them. What they are owning now is not the whole land. It's all about the 2% of the original land. And the Americans the British have been dividing that land, and the Americans are also putting pressure to divide that to the 2%.
Wow. Now, maybe from an Orthodox Jewish person, the apostle here is saying that you've got ownership. The title deed is yours. You are exiled by God for whatever mishaps that may have taken place, and later on God saw it fit to bring you back into the land that was once yours. Now, I'd like you to just give us a perspective and idea, because the discussion here is tolerance, is understanding, is accepting our diverseness and living together in peace, as you so, should I say, emphatically mentioned earlier in our conversation. Now, how would you define a relationship that is harmonious and between yourself and an Arab person?
So it's a good question. There isn't peace. There isn't love. There is coexistence, and I'm what people pejoratively call a settler. And a settler is somebody who one has a stereotype of being extremist, right-wing, hating Arabs. I don't. There's no question in my mind that God gave us the land, and we are the descendants, and we are the inheritors of that. Doesn't mean we can't share the land. It doesn't mean there were many biblical examples of Jews and Gentiles coexisting, and I think because I build bridges between Jews and Christians specifically, so the answer is understanding. The answer to reference something that I heard repeatedly from a good friend, Major Daughter, is education. We have to educate one another about ourselves. We have to care. We have to realize that there's an American political phrase, as the water rises, all boats go up. Well, that's the situation that we are in and need to be in. And we may never have peace in this generation. We can enhance the coexistence. We can enhance the mutual prosperity. And I pray that we will, but it's not easy.
Well, Doc, you're a South African, and you've got a history of what transpired in South Africa. And in terms of age, I think you experienced some of what happened in South Africa. And you know, a settler in South Africa is something that is very thorny. And I'd like your take. And look, I've realized that we cannot really contrast what is happening in Israel to South Africa. But the perspective that we've always had is that there's apartheid in Israel. But what we've seen clearly shows that no, actually it's something else. There are issues, but it's not what we've always thought it is. What is your view in this?
I think if the people here, both Palestinians and Jewish people, can maybe humble themselves and learn, like from South Africa. It's all about engagement, it's about communication. But it's key to understand that communication is not one way. Because communication is not about telling, it's about selling. Dr. Ruben mentioned a powerful word today. It's about getting that compelling proposition value. You know, we will disagree. Because as a business leader, I understand there are certain areas we'll agree on, certain areas we'll disagree on, but life goes on. What are some of the common things that we can zero in? We've been fighting in South Africa against a system, and we realized through detent, through communication, engagement, conversations like this, we're able to find each other. Are we there yet? No. But I believe, as I said, the future is the next generation of leaders. Remember, as I conclude, things don't end wrong, they start wrong. Mm-hmm. So leadership sessions like this, by Major Daughter and Major Son, for us to begin to engage lessons learned from our past, so that we're able to pass the baton to the next generation of leaders. I believe that's what makes me optimistic. You know me, I'm a naive optimist, and that is why I'm still in Jerusalem, the seventh time, and I believe that, again, God has a sense of humor, Pastor Nick. He may use the darkies, the Africans, to bring peace here. You never know. So that we begin. Why not? Why are we limiting ourselves? The first shall be the last, the last shall be the first. Absolutely. So again, the optimism I have is, again, the technology that is in this place. It's amazing. God has just given the people in this place incredible witty and intelligence that is affecting the whole world. So just like in any fish, let's eat the meat, the bones, let's chew on them a little bit.
Thanks, Prof. Thanks, Dr. I want to move on to the Prof. Dr. Molapo talks about speaking candidly about the situation, communicating effectively. And I can tell you right now, I've realized that this conversation is the most uncomfortable to have, particularly in this place. And over and above the fact that, you know, when you're in South Africa, I've learned today that we're in Judea, but on the news you'll hear the Westbank, the Westbank, the Westbank. And that's where the biggest bone of contention is. And the apostle just clarified us and told us it's about land, it's about this, it's about that. And we've seen the vineyards and the different developments that are taking place next to each other. What do you say about the discomfort in terms of discussing this matter?
Well, it is very uncomfortable, you know, for anybody to discuss this matter. But we also have to understand that, you know, in the eschatological setting of the Bible, you know, wars and rumors of wars are part of the prophecies of Jesus Christ. So there are some things we cannot pray away. However, the greatest weapon that we have, you know, as human beings, we should actually, it's not taking up arms. The greatest weapon that can make us coexist, as Jonathan is speaking, it's dialogue. We have to sit down and talk and agree, because there are wars, even in our country. There are cultural wars. You know, you'll hear people say in an accident that 10 people and 1 Shangaan died. That shows you that apartheid is not just a white and black thing. You know, culturally we have that division amongst ourselves. So yeah, so we need to sit down and have dialogue. That's how South Africa came to where we are. It wasn't because of the doi-doing, but it was once they sat down and had dialogue. That's why we are where we are today.
Wow, thank you so much. I want to laugh at one of your statements. And in truth, it's actually racist. It's something that's very rife in South Africa. People have differences to a point of fighting over those things. But at least we've been able to handle it in a less, you know, violent and dramatic manner as we see here. But I'd like to move on to a subject because we're going to leave this place. We're going to visit the mosque. And predominantly here, in fact, all of us here basically are Christians. If I'm not mistaken, if there's an Arab, may I be excused. We're going to visit the mosque. I believe we're going to visit the synagogue. And now I'm asking myself, because I'm in the Westbank, and Jonathan and Apostle Magola, this I'll give to you, and maybe you, Dr. Molapo, because you are at the level of perfection, 7 visits to Israel. So, I want to find out, will I not walk into a mosque and get shot at? Will I not walk into a synagogue and get shot at or threatened for maybe relating with someone who's of the opposite side? Because while I'm asking this question, you said something very important. You said it is a death penalty to sell, if you're an Arab, it would lead you to your death if you sold your land to a Jew. Now, will my association with an Arab not get me killed? Will my association with you as a Jew not get me killed? That's the question.
I wanted to make a comment on that one, or what they have just said.
Please, go ahead.
So you need to understand how they think. That's why I said they say kill Christians kill the Jews on Saturday and kill Christians on Sunday.
Yeah, no, that was very serious. That was really serious. Why I'm saying this, because it's the exact reason why we're having this conversation. We're discussing tolerance. And the apostle brings up a perspective that we are not privy to. Apostle, just again, kill
the Jews on Saturday and kill Christians on Sunday.
Okay, kill Jews on a Saturday, kill Christians on a Saturday.
We Christians understand
on a Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We understand forgiveness,
yes,
but we don't understand forgiveness.
I think it places the greater burden on us to educate. But what is your view, John?
So another phrase, another way of saying what you just did. First they come for the Saturday people, then they come for the Sunday people.
Yes.
I don't, look, you can come to any synagogue in Israel, I think anywhere in the world, and be welcome. You need to be culturally and religiously appropriate and dress properly, and there are cultural things that people don't understand. And when my first visit to Africa this year, there were many things I didn't understand. I came to learn, and I think we need to learn and be respectful, and that's the topic. I was in a mosque once. If I go in with like this as an Orthodox Jew, here in the wrong place, could be very bad for me. I don't go out of my way to look for it. I would pray that none of you would have that problem, but the reality is that you're going to have a greater probability of maybe something not good happening going into a mosque here in the land than any synagogue here in the land. But we need to be respectful, we need to be understanding. I think that's, we're not going to fix all the problems, but we just got to begin with steps.
Wow. Gentlemen, I'd just like you to close the conversation off. Doc, your
Well, like I said, I've been privileged. I've suffered prejudice from both sides. I've been to Israel where the Orthodox Jew spew on us and they turn their back against us. I've experienced that. Same thing in a mosque where I was called a kafir, an unbeliever, a Gentile. So again, it is not what is happening to you that counts. It is your response to it.
That's right.
It's not what's happening to you, that it's how you react to it. If you really call yourself a believer, you understand that prejudices will always be there. The word prejudice meaning prejudging. People will prejudge, but if you've got a higher ground of love, forgiveness, I'm excited that we go to the mosque. Some of us who are prayer warriors, we pray in the spirit. Not in, the spirit is a different language, or you know what it is. You pray in the spirit because at the end of the day, sometimes our presence in places like that, it releases something in the supernatural. And again, you go there with humility because Jesus' words are important. I have other sheep that are not in this fold, that I need to go and get them. And that includes both Muslims and Jewish people. And our mandate as kingdom citizens is to be sure we love everybody, we forgive everybody. Will they all love us? That's not our problem. We live our lives as if the only audience is heaven. And when heaven is happy with us, we continue to preach the message of peace, love and forgiveness.
Thank you so much. I think what Jonathan has, alluded to, that when you go into any place of worship, if, for example, I don't know, maybe my jean that I'm wearing because it has some ventilation, if it's not allowed, it's better for me to stay in the bus and not go in, rather than disrespect, the religion of others. But wisdom would teach us that in a land such as this, tourists should be protected by both. We should be protected, and over and above that, we have the angels on our side. And if we knew how many angels are with us, we would not even think or fear anything, unless, of course, we are wearing botsotso that's not supposed to go in there. Then otherwise, we are safe in the hands of God. There's no, even the Pentagon, there's no place as safe as being in the palm of our God.
And a parting shot from the Apostle, and we'll be closing our conversation, Apostle.
I have written 2 books. The first one, when I went to the parliament, the member of the parliament took it to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister said, I want to see an African who wrote this book. I've written another one. I'm launching it on the 26th of August. The second one is I'm talking about the end-time prophetic wars. That book will answer so many questions, even some questions that we have been trying to answer here. It's a very good book. Even me, when I saw it, I said, is it me who wrote the book? But I believe the Holy Spirit helped me write the book. It will help a lot of people.
Wow. Thank you very much. And that was the panel on religious tolerance, understanding, and accepting diversity. Now we've come to learn that in this life, we need to learn to judge less, understand more, strive to understand more of others' beliefs, tolerate one another so that we can have peace in this land. This is Mdntv, the pulsing heart of a new global conversation. Coming to you live from a beautiful park in the Westbank. I am Deacon Judah, and it is a shalom. Thank you very much.